Hi everyone, Jody with the Ring Lord here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make Japanese 12 and 2. This is an example I made in all copper. And this is the example of what we will be making today. It's a rainbow kind of gradient theme. This one has black large rings, but I'm going to be using frost today. So the ring sizes I'm using are 16 gauge SWG 1.6 millimeter wire in frost, and for each unit, for each color, I have 8 closed rings and 4 open rings. And you can actually do this with all the rings closed for the small rings. It's just a matter of knowing where to put the closed rings. I find it easier to just do these edge rings with open rings, but again, you can do it however you would like. So let's get started. So I am going to take a large open ring. I'll put this here for a moment. So we are doing these 2 pairs of violet rings. So I'm going to do 1 pair at the top, and then I'm going to come over and get my red rings. And then I'm going to grab another pair of violet rings and close my large ring. That's what you should have right now. And then I'm just going to double the large ring. It does matter where you put the rings, the colors for this pattern. So if I bring this back in, you can see that I've got these 3 pairs of rings in the right place. So now I'm going to move to the next unit. So if we look at this, it's 2 red at the bottom, 2 red at the top, and 1 orange in between. So I'm going to take an open ring and I'm going to grab 4 closed red rings, 2 closed orange rings, and 4 more red rings. And it does matter what order you put them in because you need the orange to be in the middle. So I'm going to attach this by going through the 2 red rings from the previous step and close. So it should look like that. And now, because this is Japanese 12 and 2, which means you have 12 rings going through 2 rings, I'm going to double it. So these are the 2 big rings going through 12 small rings. And sometimes it can be a little bit fiddly, but they definitely fit. Okay. So there's that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do, we're just going down the rainbow now. So we do the same thing each time. So now I need to grab 2 pairs of closed orange rings and then a pair of closed yellow rings and then 4 orange rings. Going to put the large ring through the 2 orange rings from the previous unit. Then I'm going to grab another open large ring and put it through all 12 of the small rings. Now you need to make sure that you're not going under your other large ring. These are to be flat and parallel. So no large ring ever goes through another large ring. I'm going to go ahead and finish this. So this is what you should have when you have all of your rings on. Now mine is obviously shorter than the one you're going to make if you're making a bracelet or necklace, but you do want to make sure that your ends look like this and that all of your rings are doubled. Japanese 12 and 2 is always pairs of rings. So just tilt it this way, make sure you've got 2 large rings for each and that they are flat, not going through one another, and that you have the correct count of your small rings. So there should be 4 on top, 4 on bottom for each unit. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, and again, this is where you could have more closed rings for your small rings. I'm just choosing not to. We're going to take 2 rings from the next unit. So you want to make sure they're the closest 2 rings to the other unit, and 2 rings from the neighboring unit. And we're just going to pop a large ring on. So let me show you. Let me move these out of the way. So I'm talking about these 2 pairs of rings. And so we're making this part. And then you will double your large ring. Same way as before, making sure it's only next to or on top of the previous ring. Okay. Just like that. So I'm just going to go through and add these rings to top and bottom. So this is what you should have right now. Now I'm going to go back through and add the connecting rings. And on the other side, I will show you how to do it if you wanted to use closed rings. So all I'm going to do is take an open small ring. In this case, it's red to keep with the color pattern. And I'm simply going through these 2 pairs of rings. So the first and second pairs of rings, large rings, and close. So there's that ring. And then, of course, because this is Japanese 12 and 2, it gets doubled. So I will add the rest of them. Again, you just need to pay attention. If you're making a color pattern, you need to pay attention to what color rings you should be using. So I'm just going down the rainbow. And this is what you should have once it is complete. So now we just need to go down the bottom, and like I said, I will show you how to do it with closed rings. So you're going to need a pair of closed small rings for each unit. So I'm going to start with red. So I put 2 closed red rings on my open large ring. I'm going to grab the pair at the end and 1 pair from the next unit, and I'm going to close my ring, and it should look like this. So you have this pair of rings hanging off, and of course you're going to double that large ring. Okay, so it should look like that. I'm going to grab 2 rings, 2 closed small rings of the next color, excuse me, on a large open ring. And I'm going to grab these 2 at the bottom, the ones that were added to the ring. And then I'm going to go through the next open pair and a pair from the neighboring ring and close. So here's the closed pair I added, and now I'm going to double the large ring. So I'm going through 8 rings right now, like that. And now you just continue doing that. And now that you're at the last ring, there are no closed rings to add, so you just go through the 3 pairs of open rings at the end. And double it. This is what the finished piece should look like. Obviously, again, yours will be longer. You could make this pattern into earrings. Just do a couple flowers or however long you want to make it. So that is it in frost. And here it is in black. So this is what it looks like when you're done. If you wanted to add a clasp, I would take, depends on which way your clasp is oriented, okay? So if you have a lobster claw, it'll have a loop on the end and it could be this way or turned. So you just have to figure out how many rings you're going to need for your particular clasp. But I would choose a color that matches with your pattern. So I would just put a ring through the end, and since my clasp is oriented that way, I'm going to need a second ring. So I'll grab another ring. And add it to the end, and then add my clasp. That way the clasp sits correctly. And then at the other end, this is personal preference. You could leave it so that it would just clasp to the end rings like that. But what I like to do is give a little extender. So I just add some rings to the end, and you can double these rings. I would probably double the rings just to keep with the doubled pattern. But you just add them to the end ring here. Oops. And how long you want to make this extender is completely up to you. If you were doing this rainbow pattern, you could continue the rainbow colors for the extender if you wanted to. That would look pretty. All right. And then I would clasp the rings, I would clasp to that extended area here at the end. So that is how you make Japanese 12 and 2. If you need assistance with a tutorial or have questions about a weave or project, please email us at projecthelp@TheRingLord.com. If you have any order or product questions, please email customer service at orders@TheRingLord.com. I hope this video has been useful and you have a great day.